The Enigma code played an integral part in World War II for Nazi Germany, and after it was cracked, the Allies. It is widely considered the most infamous secret code transmission system in history, and took brilliant minds and just enough luck to crack it and make it a force for good. Now, when you think of a great hero in war, undoubtedly people think of soldiers or commanders, but I wish to open your eyes to Alan Turing and his team of computer scientists. Alan Turing himself was born June 23, 1912, to Julius and Ethel Turing. He was a gifted mathematician and computer scientist and attended Princeton and King's University for his education. Sure, he may be smart, genius even, but that doesn't explain to me how he was a hero in the Second World War, you may be wondering. To answer your very fair question, him and his team are greatly credited with cracking the Enigma code during World War II. The Enigma code was an infamous code used by Nazi Germany and was proving to be a great challenge to the Allies as it was near impossible to decipher. This was due to some genius engineering from Arthur Scherbius, the creator of the Enigma machine. What was this genius engineering, you wonder? It was no simple machine, so explaining it to you may prove a challenge for me. So let me show you, me explaining it to a 5th grader, aka my beloved sister. Hello, Bella, my 5th grade little sister. Do you know what I'll be explaining to you today? The Enigma machine was used by Nazi Germany back during World War II to communicate a message from one point to another, using radio signals. And it was very hard for the Allies to know what they were saying because it was encoded using this wonderful machine right here. It had 4 basic parts, which the keyboard, everyone knows what a keyboard is, it's very simple. The lamp board, which these little buttons with letters in them would light up depending what you pressed on the keyboard. You have the rotors, which designated what lamps would light up for each key press, and then the plug board, which we'll get into at the very end. Now, how this extremely complicated system worked was each of these 3 rotors would be designated a certain value from, I believe, 1 to 25. So, with each rotor at whatever it would be at, say 25, 25, 25, just for example, would then make PK. And, so on and so forth. You'd type out a message, give you a different message with each lamp, you'd write it down, you'd send it over, and that's how the coding system worked. But what made this one so infamous and so powerful was that these rotors would change. They would rotate one forward for each key press. So when the first rotor made a full rotation, the second one would go, so on and so forth. Meaning, if you typed a P once and it was K, the next P would be H, for example. Of course, that might not be what actually happens, but just for this thought experiment, that's what happens. Meaning it was super hard for any intercepted messages to be taken and deciphered because it would change each time. That in itself, 25 cubed, was a huge number. It was it was insane just how much this, really encrypted those messages and how hard it was to just kind of find out what it meant. But that was not enough for Germany. It's 100,000 something was just not enough. In comes the plug board. Each of these little plugs would be assigned a different letter for the keyboard. And there would be 10 something plugs, meaning it would go into 20 of the different keys, and it would just swap those 2. So once again, going from P to K, it would go K to P, and whatever other letters were combined, it would then do that, which makes some huge number, just crazy number, meaning it was even more encrypted and made it even harder to figure out what message was trying to be sent. You get that? And that's pretty much how the Enigma code worked. Any questions?
How did the receiver know what to type?
That's a wonderful question. So basically, each week or so, a pamphlet would come out in which each operating base for these Enigma machines would then get that pamphlet, and it would tell them what locations to put their plug boards and to put their rotors in, so that they could type whatever message they received from whoever from their lamp board into the keyboard, which would then light up to the original lamp board, buttons, making it whatever message they needed them to see. So, for example, if they typed Nate and it came out as ABCD, and the rotors were at 111, plug board at whatever, you would then, the other person with their rotors at 111, with their plug board at, whatever it was designated to, would then type in ABCD and get NATE. Also, Nate. You understand the Enigma machine now?
Yes.
It's a pretty wonderfully designed piece of early technology for World War II. Now on to how Alan Turing cracked it.
Got it all understood now? Great. Now, how did Alan Turing crack it? He did this by assuming there was a crib in each intercepted message. A crib was an assumed piece of plaintext based on current events or common German phrases or places. Using this info and his team's computer science knowledge, he built the bomb. I assure you, it isn't what it sounds. No, the bomb was not an explosion, but instead a 7-foot, 100 rotating dials decoding monster, which was used to assist the others deciphering messages. Now, as previously explained, it was hard for them to use normal methods of decoding, like finding a common term or letter, because it couldn't repeat itself. So another common form of decoding was simply using brute force. Now, imagine you are told to unlock a number lock. You would start by going to the first input and testing, and then continuing one by one. Sounds inefficient, right? That's because it is. But that's where the British bomb comes in. Using its million wires and 100 dials, it would use the knowledge of the cribs and the base letter not being itself to test many different combinations until it found a correct orientation. This huge machine tested approximately 17,500 different orientations until it found a match. This proved greatly effective, and they could decipher about any message sent through the Enigma machine. And 5 years after the bomb's creation, World War II came to an ending in 1945. We pay our respects to Alan Turing and his genius team, as it is considered one of the largest victories for the Allies in the war, and the showing of some of the strongest communication of all time.